This year has been rough. For you, for me, for everyone. Before the quarantine began, I was feeling exhausted, and it's only gone downhill from there. I'm sure that you can relate. In this video, which is the first of a 3-part series, I'll show you how to use the Hobonichi Cousin planner to break out of this funk, with not just suggestions, but actual steps that you can take to better your life. The Hobonichi planner is split into 3 major sections: the monthly spread, the weekly spread, and the daily spreads. For a general overview on the planner, you can see my last video in the description below, although this series will serve as a much more in-depth and research-based look into how you can use each section for optimal productivity and wellness. Before I go into how to use the planner, I want to talk about why. Why should we use the planner? And you may already have ideas in your head, like I want to journal more, I want to read more, I want to learn a language, I want to exercise, or overall I just want to be a better person. No, we have to go deeper. Why did you choose to do this, and why should you do this? These ideas that I'm going to be bringing up are based primarily on Steven Pressfield's The War of Art and Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, which are great books, but I will be only focusing on specific parts of them. First is the issue of resistance. What exactly do you want to do, but have the most trouble finding the motivation to do? Pressfield argues that the more important a call to action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel towards pursuing it. So, right now, pause the video and write down your thoughts. What do I want or need to do that I simply have not been doing? Next, we need to envision. Now that you have determined why you want to do this, figure out why that hasn't happened yet. The reason is likely because we just straight up neglect to take care of ourselves as human beings. In Jordan Peterson's second rule of life, treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping, he explains that people are much more likely to fill out a prescription for their pet than they are for themselves. Why? Because we think we don't deserve as much as those we care for, even when our lives and their lives are going to be much better if we do. Now, another pause. Ask yourself, what might my life look like if I were caring for myself properly? So now that you have a vision for your future, you know where that resistance is coming from, and you have an idea of why you want to beat that, I have one more question for you. Again, from Jordan Peterson's book. How could I use my time to make things better instead of worse? So now the how, or at least the beginning of the how. As I said earlier, the Hobonichi has 3 calendar type views, but also has this nifty little section in the very beginning, the habit tracker. As you can see, there are 12 columns for each month, split into 10 smaller columns that can be used for individual habits. I was doing all right in keeping up with my habits, but I completely dropped off once the quarantine happened. That's because I was using this as a way to go towards my goals without having a system in place. In James Clear's Atomic Habits, he outlines why goals are not the way to success. The systems you set to reach them are. In a podcast with Matt Giavella, he explains,
I don't mean that goals are useless. I think goals are actually quite useful for setting a sense of direction or knowing, what area the boat should be pointed in, what direction the boat should be pointed in, and where you're trying to row. But once you've decided that, it's probably more useful to put the goal on the shelf and focus exclusively on the system or the process.
Yes, goals need to be set, but habits and systems are what will get you towards that goal. So what is even better is by focusing on the systems instead of your goals, is that you'll be much happier with life. There are many reasons for this, but I think Jordan Peterson sums it up best when he says happiness is about the journey uphill, not in the fleeting sense of satisfaction awaiting at the next peak. If you look at your success based on the goals you have achieved, you will be unhappy. If you put your focus instead on making just a bit of progress each day, you will not only be more likely to reach your goals, but you will continue to be successful once you do. So, to translate this all into an action plan you can take, first fill out this statement. I will behavior at time in location. Now, use habit stacking to use that momentum to your advantage. Right after habit, I will new habit. Next, you need to make it satisfying. Right after habit, I will track habit. Sometimes it isn't that easy, so if you need to give yourself some motivation, it's okay. Right after habit I need, I will habit I want. There are 10 spots to fill out in your habit tracker. I would suggest you create 2 or 3 to start, since it is a lot better to make good progress towards one goal than to have large ambitions that aren't met. Here's an example of what I did to create my habit tracking for November. And yes, you should change it every month to do what works best. I made 2 habit stacks, one for the morning and one for the evening. As you will notice, I put very small amounts of time on the habits I want to do. This is because saying, I will study for 10 minutes is an upper limit. That makes the habit look more attractive and more doable. Both Clear and Pressfield believe that the most important thing is to just show up, even if it is just to do the bare minimum. Although sticking to it and going beyond that is, of course, amazing. So once you've set your implementation intention, then start to translate that into your Hobonichi habit tracker. I like to use different color pens and markers to differentiate between each task and make it look like a rainbow. Use some washi tape and stickers to accent the pages. Really, the sky's the limit of what you can do with the Hobonichi, which is why I think it's such an incredible book. But whatever you do, do not make every habit a daily streak. I tried to do that several times, especially with my exercise goal, but that is just not realistic. Instead, try doing the 2-day rule, which is you don't skip more than 2 days, or only pick one habit to do every day. Then try to just do the others as much as you can. I would aim for 4 or 5 days in the week. One last note on habits. While it does not relate directly to your Hobonichi, be sure to set your environment up so that the good habits are easy and obvious and the bad habits are hard and hidden. If you would like to hear more about environment in a future video, please let me know. It is really interesting and really important, so I would love to go further in this. And that's the habits section done, but don't think we're not going to go back to habits in our future episodes, because we definitely are. Now I will cover the monthly spread. To be honest, this is the most simple and straightforward section in my personal use. I use it as a conventional calendar. I just color code my events by school, personal, projects, or work. I actually have another Hobonichi where I use the monthly spread to create a production plan for my YouTube or other creative projects. There's no reason that they cannot be combined into one cousin, especially since there is plenty of room. If you would like to do that, be sure just to differentiate between what is in your personal schedule and what is in your professional schedule. While I personally do not use the monthly spread nearly as much as the other sections, it is still a great opportunity to keep track of the results of your habits. On the left side of each week, you could write the total number of pages you read, calories burned. Personally, for me, that didn't work for me. I kind of just use it as the scheduler alone and then maybe some thoughts on the side. Do not use every single inch of your Hobonichi, just fill it in with doodles or something. There is a point where planning is too much and it ends up just hindering your actual progress. In his book, Atomic Habits Again, James Clear says, when preparation becomes a form of procrastination, something needs to change. Experiment, see what works, scrap what doesn't, and make it not something that you feel obligated to do, but something that brings joy and excitement to what you're doing. One thing before we wrap up is to consider why we are doing this in the first place. Change doesn't happen in a day, and we're not trying to be someone else. We're not trying to be the most productive person in the world, because honestly, that seems like a pretty awful life if you don't have any time to relax. Know what you want to be based on the implementation intention, and know where you want to go. Know what will make you happiest. Pay attention to your mental and physical health. And in future episodes, we'll be talking about how to make time not only for doing good work, but also for doing work on yourself and in your personal life. And now the summary. Why? We have now determined who we want to be, who we can be, if we care for ourselves and actually take the time. We've also covered habits by determining what systems we will take to become that person and set up the habit tracker to reflect that system. Finally, we covered the monthly section. We have outlined our schedule in a clear and organized way so we know what happens when, which will help us in next week's lesson. Before leaving, I have 2 things to ask of you. So first of all, in many academic studies and James Clear's book, it has been proven that joining a community where habits that you want to instill are encouraged will actually help you do them, carry them out. So I have made a Facebook community page where we can share our Hobonichi layouts, progress towards our goals and within our systems, and what we are thinking about this journey in an encouraging environment. Also, if you want to see more videos on how you can make change in your life using the Hobonichi Planner, like and subscribe for more. While the next 2 videos will be continuing on this subject, going into the weeks and then the days, I will definitely take time to read every comment if there's something else that you are interested in, that you want to go further in, or if just you want to say something, that you have any thoughts, I'm 100% going to take the time to read them and reply. So I'm excited to see what you all have to say, and I'll see you in the next one.